We come now to the adjournment.
I beg to move this House to now adjourn.
Thank you. The question is that this House do now adjourn. Mr. Chris Williamson.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. And let me start by saying I secured this debate tonight to highlight the antisocial and criminal behaviour of a tiny minority of individuals who cause havoc in the countryside. These rural ruffians are blood sports enthusiasts who've been getting away with this lawless behaviour for far too long. In my mind, Mr. Speaker, they're no different to the mindless yobs that blight some of our urban housing estates. But the police, regrettably, are turning a blind eye to their lawless behaviour. Now, I've been a trustee of the League Against Cruel Sports since 1979, and I was the press officer and then the chair of the Hunt Saboteurs Association 35 years ago. So I know from first-hand experience what these characters are capable of. I was regularly assaulted and threatened by Hunt supporters, and I'd like to give just one example to the House of one incident that happened to me. It was an occasion following a lengthy car chase where my vehicle was rammed by a supporter of the Quorn Hunt who was driving a Land Rover. This was followed just a few minutes later by several other Quorn Hunt supporters using powerful catapults to fire steel ball bearings at me. I was therefore delighted when Parliament struck a blow for decency by passing the Hunting Act in 2004. Yes, of course.
I know you'll have to forgive me for trying not to be facetious when asking the question, but perhaps he would declare, at least to the House, any criminal record or record of a similar nature that he obtained whilst being a Hunt saboteur, because I think that's relevant to the debate.
Well, pleased to confirm to the House, Mr. Speaker, that I had no criminal convictions when I was a Hunt saboteur. But let me say
would it be fair to say that he was bound over to keep the peace for an incident involving inciting people in the eyes of the law to break the law when he was Secretary of Derbyshire Hunt Saboteurs back in the 1970s, as reported in the Derby Evening Telegraph?
Well, I was bound over to, for the record, Mr. Speaker, to keep the peace after appearing on a radio Derby broadcast to outline a protest against grouse shooting. And that's very different to the sort of implication that the Honourable Member is seeking to make. But let me say, Mr. Speaker, that the Hunting Act, the legislation bringing in the Hunting Act, was long overdue. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported the ban and still does. Labour, Tory and Liberal Democrat voters support the ban. Young and old citizens support the ban. Male and female citizens support the ban. Urban, suburban and rural dwellers all support the ban.
Will my honourable friend
Yes, of course.
I thank my honourable friend for giving me and would ask whether or not it is the case that, in fact, support for the ban has increased since the Hunting Act was passed in the 2001-2005 Parliament.
Absolutely. My honourable friend is absolutely correct. And I don't think people can understand why the members on some members on that side of the chamber want to bring back this barbaric activity. The overwhelming majority of the British people want to see blood sports continue to remain consigned to the dustbin of history. And as my honourable friend has pointed out, the vast majority of the British public want to see the retention of the Hunting Act. Now, the 2004 Act should have consigned hunting to the dustbin of history, yet such is the arrogance of some members of the hunting fraternity that they think they're above the law. But they need to understand that nobody in this country is above the law, not even them. Organisations including the League Against Cruel Sports, Hunt Watch, Protect Our Wild Animals, the Hunt Saboteurs Association and the International Fund for Animal Welfare, along with many other conscientious individuals, have continued to monitor hunt activity, and they all tell a consistent story. Hunt violence and hunt havoc continue to blight the lives of ordinary people living in and visiting our beautiful countryside. I have to say, I've been genuinely shocked by the evidence that's been passed to me about the behaviour of these common criminals. Antisocial behaviour, intimidation, harassment and even violence directed towards those monitoring their activities are all too commonplace. I couldn't believe that the violence and intimidation I witnessed in the 1970s is even worse today. The disregard for the wider rural community is another feature of their selfish, arrogant behaviour, which includes road blocking, invading and damaging private property, rampaging hunting dogs killing livestock and beloved pets, causing road traffic accidents and recklessly trespassing onto railway lines. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone who participates in hunting is an arrogant, violent thug. Indeed, I'm sure that most hunt followers obey the law. But worryingly, a significant minority are arrogant, violent thugs. That's why urgent action is needed to tackle this flagrant disregard for the law. Of course, I understand that the police numbers have been reduced, but where the law is being routinely abused, the public must have confidence that the authorities will take action. That's why the government must act to give the police the tools they need to do the job. Now, since I secured this debate, I've been inundated with examples of the lawless behaviour by sections of the hunting fraternity. The incidents are too numerous to list them all here tonight, but I'd like to give just a few examples to illustrate the kind of people and the sort of incidents I'm talking about. In December, a hunt monitor reported an assault to Oakhampton police that was captured on film. She was told to attend the police station with evidence of the assault. But after reviewing the DVD, police officers told her no offences had been committed. They said there were just some driving issues which the offenders would be advised about, that any assault was part of a hunting issue, and that she shouldn't have been on the public footpath in the first place. Then last summer, a South Pembrokeshire hunt supporter was jailed for 3.5 years for firearms offences while at a hunt, after a hunt monitor was shot in the head by what transpired to be a modified single-shot handgun. The man also had a sawn-off shotgun and ammunition inside his van, and another 16 guns were also found in his home. In Devon, 2 separate homeowners sold their houses and moved away from the area after being victimised by the local hunt. The huntmaster of the Crawley and Horsham hunt, Kim Richardson, was recently videoed telling hunt monitors that, and I quote, "You're all fair game now," end of quote. On January the 4th last year, a female hunt monitor was violently assaulted by a supporter from the Cottesmore fox hunt. The woman was on her own when she saw the hunt's hounds illegally chasing a fox. When she intervened, she was thrown to the ground by a man who smashed her over the head with an aluminium bottle before pinning her down and pouring the bottle's contents over her face. On March the 18th last year, supporters of the Ross Harriers hunt broke the window of a vehicle belonging to a monitor and attacked the monitors with an iron bar. One of the victims of the attack suffered injuries to the leg and head. On the 20th, I won't take any more interventions, thank you. On the 25th of March last year, 3 hunt monitors were set upon by a group of 15 Coniston fox hunt supporters armed with sticks. One of the monitors was left. I've got a lot to say and I really want to just make some more progress. If I have time, I will let the honourable gentleman in towards the end. One of the monitors was left with welts on his back and a serious eye injury after the attackers tried to throw him down a ravine. An ambulance was called to treat him, but couldn't reach him after it was deliberately held up by vehicles belonging to hunt supporters who hurled abuse at the paramedics. On November the 3rd, the Crawley and Horsham huntsman, Nick Bycroft, was filmed breaking the wing mirror of a moving vehicle, then trying to smash the window with his whip, but the West Sussex police, who were on the scene, refused to take any action. On Boxing Day, 5 armed men from the Southdown and Erridge fox hunt attacked a solitary hunt monitor, beating him around the head and injuring his hands. Keys and equipment were stolen from the vehicle, yet the East Sussex police refused to visit the hunt meet to identify the culprits. Earlier this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, I watched this short video that was produced by the International Fund for Animal Welfare, illustrating the intimidation and theft, and indeed assault, to which their monitors have been subjected. And I have to say, I found the footage shocking. I also have evidence here, Mr. Speaker. It's a letter from the Thames Valley Police of one particular hunt incident dating back to January 2011. It involves a detective inspector from Thames Valley Police who told a complainant that the case was, and I quote, fundamentally flawed principally due to the delay in time since the offences. Is an offence not an offence whenever it took place? Is the passage of time really a valid reason not to pursue? But as I've already said, it isn't just hunt monitors who are the victims of these militant blood sports fanatics. I've also got some recent examples of other types of antisocial behaviour where these rural ruffians have run amok. In Kent, a farm manager's wife was pushed off a public footpath by horse riders who were galloping across a narrow area. She was pushed into the hedge after grabbing her pet dog to save him from being attacked. The Goatland and Statondale hunts killed a pet cat. In Devon, a Staffordshire Terrier was attacked by hunt hounds. In Yorkshire, recovering horses at a sanctuary were distressed by rioting hounds, and the owner of the sanctuary subsequently received threats, incredibly, from a member of the hunt. A cattle farmer in Surrey had his herd disturbed on a number of occasions, causing severe distress to many of the cattle. In Somerset, a sheep farmer complained of sheep being distressed by hunting hounds. In Gloucester, horses were distressed by trespassing hounds that killed a fox on private property. And in North Cornwall, animals from a small holding were disturbed by rioting hounds. These examples are just the tip of the iceberg. In what other part of society would this be accepted? The simple answer is that it wouldn't be. The irony is, of course, that none of this is necessary. If these recalcitrant hunt supporters and their unacceptable practices weren't tolerated by the hunting fraternity's hierarchy, these incidents would stop. By complying with the terms of the Hunting Act, all of the transgressions I've outlined could be avoided. Yes, of course.
Thank you, Honourable Friend, for giving way. Does he also agree with me that the fact that the government is sending out the signal, firstly with their rhetoric about the Hunting Act being flawed and not enforceable, but also just with the signals they're sending out that they would like the hunting ban to be repealed, that sends a message to the police not to take such offences seriously when the police ought to be doing exactly that?
I couldn't agree more with my honourable friend, and indeed I'm coming to that in the conclusion of my speech. Briefly, yes.
Honoured, and I do respect the fact that he's made such way, but we could both stand here all evening. I've spent 20 years compiling incidents of violence against legitimate country people and hunt supporters, particularly by people, members of hunt saboteurs in balaclavas and all of that. Would he not accept two things? First of all, that he could at least seize this opportunity to apologise to all those people, women and children included, who've received violence at the hands of the hunt saboteurs, but also recognise that in every instance that he's mentioned, there is already existing law to deal with the matters that he's brought to the House's attention.
Well, I think if anybody is owed an apology, Mr. Speaker, it is the victims of the hunt violence that I've referred to, and I regret the fact that the honourable gentleman didn't take the opportunity as a former chief executive of the Countryside Alliance to actually offer that apology tonight. Now, if the hunting fraternity did indeed comply with the terms of the Hunting Act, the hunt monitors that they seem so frightened of would be welcomed because the hunts wouldn't be doing anything unlawful. But the Masters of Foxhounds Association and the Countryside Alliance have singularly failed to deal with the lawless behaviour in their midst. So, can the Minister reassure me that he'll issue an instruction to the Chief Constables stating that the Hunting Act must be upheld? Will he also ensure that Chief Constables take steps to prevent hunt supporters intimidating anyone lawfully monitoring hunting activities? Will he state for the record that as far as this government's concerned, no one is above the law? And does he agree with me that the mixed messages from senior government ministers could be misinterpreted by some people as tacit approval to break the law? And finally, will he urge his senior colleagues, including the Prime Minister, to stop criticising the Hunting Act?
To reply to the debate, I call the Minister of State at the Home Office, Mr Damien Green.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I congratulate, of course, the honourable member for Derby North for securing this evening's debate. It is not often in an adjournment debate that the full emotions behind it are apparent, but they already have been this evening, and the House will be aware of the very strong emotions and feelings held on both sides of this debate. He set me some challenges in the last few minutes of his speech. So let me address them directly. Violence at hunts is unacceptable, whether that's violence towards those who are hunting or towards those who are protesting against hunts. As with any violent crime, I would expect the police to take appropriate action should violence occur at a hunt. He also said he wanted me to direct chief constables to do certain things. I should point out to him, as gently as I can, that it is not for ministers to tell chief constables how to do their job. One of the things that we most cherish about British policing is that the police are operationally independent, and when politicians try to direct police in detail as to how they should do their job, they enter very, very murky. I'll certainly give way.
For giving way, but would he not feel it's appropriate, however, to issue guidance to the chief constables to make it clear that the Hunting Act is the law of the land and that police have an obligation to uphold the law, all laws?
Single police officer in this country that doesn't know that the Hunting Act is the law of the land. What he is seeking to do is asking me to interfere in the operational decisions of the police, and that I refuse to do, and any sensible policing minister, indeed any minister, would refuse to do that, because that is not the way we do policing. I'll give way, of course.
I'm grateful to the Minister for giving way. I don't want to keep interrupting his flow. But surely, though, he's not satisfied, is he, that hunts are regularly and flagrantly breaking the terms of the Hunting Act? That can't be right, can it? It's the law of the land, and surely the government has an obligation, does it not, to make sure the law of the land is upheld?
Get to the facts. As my honourable friend said, there are, on both sides of the hunting debate, it is possible for people to compile a list of grievances, and that's what has happened. Let me turn to the question of policing at hunts very directly. There are over 325 registered hunts in England and Wales. Together, they've carried out over 70,000 days hunting since the Hunting Act came into force in 2005. And from 2005 to 2011, the latest year for which official figures are available, a total of 332 individuals were prosecuted under the Hunting Act. Of these, 239 were found guilty. The Association of Chief Police Officers has issued guidance to forces on the enforcement of the Hunting Act. This guidance reinforces the general position that the deployment of police officers, including for enforcement of the Hunting Act, is an operational matter for the police force concerned. The police, of course, have an important duty to enforce the law, but this general duty to enforce the law is subject to the normal discretion of chief constables, who are required to balance resources and priorities. The Hunting Act is no exception to this principle. It is up to the police to decide what resources they use to enforce and prioritise the Hunting Act. The honourable gentleman did indicate that he thought the police were perhaps neglecting this because of the absence of sufficient resources to do so. Of course, the government has no choice but to deal with the deficit, and that means that all public services must constrain their spending. Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary has made clear that there is no simple link between officer numbers and crime levels, between numbers and the visibility of the police in the community, or between numbers and the quality of service provided. And indeed, I would hope that honourable members on all sides of the House, and indeed both sides of this very passionate debate, would welcome the fact that in the first 2 years of this government in office, crime fell by 10% on both measures of crime. Crime is clearly falling, and it's perfectly clear that the police, even with the constraints in resources that they now have, are able to do their job better than ever before. So there is no argument at all that resources are in any way restricting the police from doing their basic job of cutting crime, and that applies across the board. But let me turn to the right of protest, which the honourable gentleman rightly talked about, and I would agree with him that peaceful protest is a vital part of a democratic society.
I'm not actually talking about the right to protest. That's not what I referred to when I talked about hunt monitors. Hunt monitors are doing a perfectly legal and lawful activity, monitoring the activities of the hunting fraternity, in a sense to make sure that they don't transgress the law. And indeed, evidence that has been garnered by hunt monitors has led to numerous successful prosecutions. So it isn't about protest, Mr. Speaker, it's about monitors being allowed to go about their lawful business.
Well, indeed, and I've already, I hope, enlightened the House with the actual number of prosecutions. And if the honourable gentleman is arguing that in some way the hunts are not being properly policed, I would simply point out there have been 332 prosecutions, 239 of which were found guilty. So whether he regards monitors as protesters or as something else, then it is clear that the police are doing their job, that people, and indeed the rest of the criminal justice system is as well, that people are being prosecuted and prosecuted successfully. But of course the rights of monitors or protesters, whatever we wish to call them, need to be balanced with the rights of others to go about their business without fear of intimidation or of serious disruption to the community. And the police have a responsibility to assess and manage this balance to ensure public protection and safety, engaging with protesters, with monitors, with event organisers to enable peaceful activities to take place. And it's clear that on either side of this debate, none of these rights extend to violent or threatening behaviour. It's not acceptable for peaceful and lawful people to be attacked by others for expressing their views. And the police will and do act if that happens. The police have a range of powers available to deal with violent crime, whether at a hunt or elsewhere. Where a violent crime has been committed or alleged, or a complaint has been made to the police, it is the responsibility of the police to investigate and determine whether there are sufficient grounds to launch a criminal investigation. The honourable gentleman in his speech gave a number of examples, in some of which the police had clearly looked at evidence and decided that a prosecution would not be successful. That is normal police activity. That's what the police do every day. They detect more things than end up in court because they may well decide on looking at the evidence of any type of crime that actually maybe a crime hasn't been committed or maybe there's not enough evidence to...
On that point, he mentioned very sensibly the issue of intimidation, but would he like to at least express a view about whether, when people are involved in hunt monitoring or hunt protecting, it is necessary to wear paramilitary gear, it's necessary to wear balaclavas, and that in itself is not an intimidatory situation, and whether the police could exercise the powers they already have to make sure people want to protest, they do so in a legitimate and uncompromising way.
As I have said, violent or intimidatory behaviour will draw the attention of the police from wherever it comes. As I've said several times, this is a passionate debate with very strongly held views on both sides. And what I am anxious to do is that those views can continue to be expressed, but that people stay within the law and intimidation and violence is kept out of this debate, as it should be out of all debates in a democracy. Yes?
For the sake of clarity and for setting the record straight, I've seen evidence, I have it on this video, on this DVD here, and I've seen other footage of hunt supporters wearing the paramilitary uniforms that the honourable gentleman referred to, and the balaclavas, and being extremely intimidatory and indeed physically assaulting hunt monitors. And I hope that the Minister and indeed the honourable gentleman would admonish those individuals as well.
Well, I will say to the honourable gentleman what I've just said to my honourable friend, that I will condemn violence and intimidation from wherever it comes. I am aware, we are all aware of how strongly felt the views are on this matter, but it should not lead to violence, it should not lead to intimidation. What the police do, if the police have evidence of violence or intimidation or any other criminal activity, they will consult the Crown Prosecution Service, who will decide whether or not an offence reaches the threshold required for prosecution under the relevant legislation. The Code for Crown Prosecutors prohibits a prosecution from continuing if there is not a realistic prospect of a conviction. Once criminal proceedings are brought in an individual case, it is for the courts alone to determine whether the police have acted correctly in enforcing the law and whether there is sufficient evidence to convict the defendant of the charges brought. Where a defendant is convicted, it is for the court to decide, within limits laid down in legislation, what sentence should be imposed, taking into account any aggravating or mitigating features of the case. This is a fundamental principle of our criminal justice system, and no government minister has the power to influence the courts in the exercise of their judicial discretion, and a very good thing too. Let me move on to discuss the issue of hunting more generally. This has been a highly contentious issue for many years, both inside this House and among the general public. And it's been borne home to me this evening, if it hadn't been in other ways, that it certainly remains so. I also know that for the honourable member who introduced this debate in particular, it's an issue which he is passionate about, as also is my honourable friend from Carmarthen and Pembrokeshire. It's right and proper that government and Parliament should reflect on this matter from time to time. And I should make it clear from this dispatch box that while I appreciate that this is a sensitive issue that needs to be discussed from time to time, the government is not proposing any immediate reform at this current stage. We recognise the strong views that are held on both sides of the debate. And also, I think a point that's important to this House, that it is an issue of personal conscience. There will be people in all parties in this House who hold different views on the subject of hunting, and it has been one of the issues that has traditionally been rightly a free vote issue in Parliament. I was in the House at the time of the 2004 Act, which I voted against, and my personal views are on the record. I should say, as a sort of declaration of non-interest, that I have never been hunting in my life. Nevertheless, I voted against the bill. The Conservative Election Manifesto promised that Parliament would be given the opportunity to repeal the Hunting Act on a free vote. There are many greater priorities facing the government at the moment, but we plan to honour that commitment by putting forward a motion on hunting at an appropriate time. There would be a free vote. I'll give away one last time.
Giving way again. Would you agree with me that that commitment and the rhetoric from senior ministers is, as I said in my speech, tantamount to tacit approval for the people who are transgressing the Hunting Act to go along and do so? Now, they may be misinterpreting, and I'm sure ministers wouldn't be encouraging people to break the law, but can you not understand how the hunting fraternity might take that as tacit approval to break the Hunting Act?
No, absolutely not. Every party at every election makes promises to change the law. Nobody takes that as tacit approval to break the law. And if they did, then no party would responsibly ever promise to change the law at any election, and therefore there wouldn't be any point in having elections or election manifestos. So as I hope the House will have observed, I'm trying to steer a course during this speech, but I have to say to the honourable gentleman there, I absolutely reject that interpretation of the policy that was put forward by my party at the previous election. As I said, the time is not appropriate. That we're not prioritising reform of the Hunting Act at the moment, but the right to protest peacefully and within the law is one this government holds dearly. Violence against those who support hunting or against those who do not support hunting is unacceptable. I know that the police will take appropriate action to identify and prosecute the perpetrators of violent crime, using the range of powers at their disposal to deal with any violence or unlawful activity. That is what the police should be doing, that's what the police are doing, and that's what they will continue to do.
Order. The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Order.